Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady. Today is the day. I am finally, officially, breaking ground / planting the next door property. Now, step one, of course, was getting the sod removed. And that was an intense process, but we did it. Step two is to get all of the bulbs that I ordered back in August from Brent and Becky's Bulbs. This is the first thing to go ahead and get in the ground before any shrubs or anything else gets planted. So basically, I wanted to show you what I ordered, and then I'm going to show you my process. I'm going to actually mark out bulb zones, kind of concentrated middle to front of the borders. Eventually, there will be perennial layer over top of the bulbs, so that the bulbs aren't underneath permanent trees and shrubs. And I'm going to do that with some painter's tape or the bright orange paint. Just so it's super clear that when I get into step three, which is actually planting shrubs, I don't impact the bulbs that are already in the ground. So let me turn the camera around. I want to show you the varieties that I bought. I don't remember. I ordered all of these when I was at the Perennial Plant Association Symposium back in early August in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I was still recovering from COVID. And I got swept away with all the great recommendations, and I ordered a lot. I've always regretted not doing a proper bulb installation on this property when we broke ground. And I decided, I really wanted to make sure I didn't do that next door. I'm trying to learn from my mistakes. And I was very much inspired by Kelly Norris, my good friend who lives in Des Moines, Iowa, who has built the most magnificent native prairie in his suburban landscape, but has a really dynamic bulb layer. And so I just wanted to be like Kelly and order a good variety of bulbs that are reliable and hardy, that animals don't eat. So that was my motivation for this selection. No, they're not native, but they are going to go into the ground with the native perennials, trees, and shrubs, just to add this extra layer of oomph and excitement in the spring season. All right, let me show you what I ordered. All right, well, let's start with this giant Dutch bulb crate. This is completely full of Dutch Master. And this is like a classic daffodil. It's a big flower, super reliable. What I love about daffodils or narcissus is they're poisonous. That means the voles don't eat them. Deer and rabbits and groundhogs don't eat the foliage. They're just super reliable. And I don't know exactly how many this is. I think it's 300. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to have a huge bulb display. I also ordered more daffodils. Here is Sunlight Sensation, a nice yellow kind of malty flower. Here is Starlight Sensation, which is pure white, and Moonlight Sensation, which looks like a very pale yellow. Here is Narcissus Mount Hood, which is a really beautiful white. And then the only other species of bulb I got are allium. And so here's Allium schubertii. This has a really impressive, huge flower. And here is Allium Purple Sensation. So I'm really excited about all of these. You can see they give great information about where you should plant, how deep, how big they are, when they actually flower. Schubertii is like a zone 7 through 9, whereas the Purple Sensation is zones 3 through 8. So there's a lot of information when you're ordering bulbs that you should pay attention to. I'd say narcissus or daffodils in general are the easiest. They're reliable and animals don't bother them, and that makes them, I think, very, very practical. And nothing really says spring quite like a fabulous flower arrangement or garden full of daffodils. So it's time to take these Dutch crates over once and for all. They've been sitting on my front porch for over a month, and I'm going to start digging holes. All right, as we look at these beds, we basically have two views. You've got roadside view and then interior view, what you would see from the house. like sitting on the front porch. And I want to make sure that there are bulbs that basically accommodate both views. I care more about the view from the house than I do the road. However, you know, the essence of a garden is to make it feel welcoming to people and obviously to cats. So I'm planning on doing, you know, some big corners and basically kind of do that on all 4 edges. Definitely big bulb displays here at the sort of entry point to the garden, which is meant to like welcome you to the front door. And then in that peninsula there, lots of bulbs to go in. So I'm just gonna get that marking paint and I'm just gonna just mark out some big areas where essentially what I'm gonna do is just with a shovel, I'm gonna dig a little bit down, maybe 6-8 inches, and I'm gonna plant them in mass. I'm not gonna do individual holes. I was thinking about doing that and I've got a great bulb planter. But this is more efficient. You know, I've got hundreds of bulbs to plant and doing individual holes just doesn't make sense. I also think bulb displays are much more effective when they are in mass. So when you have a whole bunch planted all next to each other, and basically you achieve that from doing big communal beds. So I'm gonna go ahead and get busy spray painting and then digging, and then I'll show you an up close view of how I'm just gonna set the bulbs in. Now, I'm not gonna dig super deep because my intention in these beds, once we get the shrubs placed out, we're actually gonna only dig half holes and we're gonna compensate with more level mix from Soil Cube. So on top of where the bulbs are, there will be like at least another 6 to 8 inches of soil going on top of it. So I don't actually have to plant them as deep. And that will help me because here we have a really high water table and I don't want the bulbs to get into that super wet zone where they could potentially rot. All right, I'm gonna start right here. You can see I've just kind of done little arcs around the edges and well, we'll see how far I can dig without hitting water. That's the critical component here. And basically, I'm just gonna kind of try and dig this out. Yeah, probably 4 to 6 inches. This whole corner. Just gonna try to push the soil up against the edge, get the bulbs placed, and then rake it back over. Okay, so basically, I dug out a good sized trench. Some of the soil I just mounded up along the edge. The rest of it is in this wheelbarrow that weighs like 1 billion pounds. And now, in this opening, I am gonna start setting out the narcissus from that tray, from that crate. All right, I think it's fair to say that's a lot of daffodils. It's gonna make a huge impact. And now I am just gonna rake over this soil and dump the rest of that soil right on top. Remember, before I plant the perennials, this entire bed is gonna have 6 to 8 inches of level mix from Soil Cube added on top. So though these aren't planted very deep right now, by the time the bed is finished, these will be at least 12 inches underground, which is the ideal depth for planting daffodils. All right, I'm gonna cover these up and then I'm gonna do the next corner. Everybody, I've made great progress. I had to plug my phone in because it was dying, so I didn't get to time lapse getting it all done. I don't have it all done yet, but I did get the 300 Dutch Masters planted. So those are along the front, these 3 sections, really densely planted. And then in this part right here, I did the 50 Mount Hood, and right here, and I am going to do about 25 of the Purple Sensation. I'm gonna do the rest of the Purple Sensation just literally across over there, and I have a different daffodil for over there. So for my own sake, I am just going to walk around and identify what is where, because by the time these bloom in the spring, I won't have any recollection of any of these cultivar names. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and record that real quick so I can come back and use this video as a reference later on. Okay, Dutch Master is in the 3 pockets across the front. 1, 2, and 3. All right, Allium Purple Sensation and Narcissus Mount Hood are in this quadrant towards the entryway. All right, Moonlight Sensation and Allium Schubertii are going to be here in this pocket, and if there's some extras over in that pocket here. Again, this is the kind of bed that's closest to the driveway. So out here in the main roadside bed, in this scallop, I'm going to do Sunlight Sensation. And then this corner of the main street side bed is going to be Starlight Sensation mixed with Purple Sensation Allium. So this approach is really easy. Obviously, easier when you're breaking ground versus doing it in like a bed that's established. Over here I actually have a lot of roots from the river birch that used to be planted on the side of the property. So instead of fighting it, just kind of put the bulbs where I don't run into root issues. And you can tell I'm obviously not filling these entire crevices, but these are kind of designed for big perennial installations. So things like Muhlenbergia and Coreopsis and Rudbeckia, and I don't know, I have a whole bunch of stuff. I have a lot of perennials, actually, a lot more than I realized will come into these spaces, while the majority of the square footage is going to be devoted to native shrubs. And a lot of those native shrubs have a spreading habit, which kind of scares me, but I am going to lean into it and just give them the space to be able to spread. In the long run, that's going to reduce my maintenance. So instead of looking at their spreading habit as a problem, which is what I've always done, by the way, I'm looking at it as an attribute. And that's probably the biggest lesson that I'm learning with regard to getting this new garden designed and ultimately built. Just sort of changing my attitude about plant behavior, embracing natives, something I didn't learn about at all when I was studying horticulture. You know, my expertise is definitely more in Asian native plants, which do behave differently. So yeah, instead of complaining that the Itea is spreading, I'm gonna be like, that's awesome, the Itea is spreading. But in these zones, I really don't want there to be shrubs. I'd like for these pockets to be herbaceous and bulbs, and everything except the bulbs are gonna be native. I'll probably sneak some food in here at some point as well. But you know, the majority of the stuff, the permanent stuff, is going to be native. And well, that's a huge differentiating factor from my existing garden, which is almost exclusively from China and Japan. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to expand my plant palette and hopefully be an inspiration for others who have an interest in native plants and want to create a garden that looks a little bit more legible than the ordinary native plantings that we've often seen, where they just look kind of messy and unkept. My goal is to maintain this border in a way that, well, will just make everything look purposeful and legible, and none of my neighbors will think that nature just sprung up in the front yard. got a few more Allium schubertii left, which is great because I like to put some in the existing herbaceous native border close up to the driveway, and I might even get to keep a couple to put in my own garden. And believe it or not, planting all of these bulbs actually took just about an hour. I'm so happy to have this off of my to-do list, which means that the next step is actually going to be the planting design part, which, well, I'm really excited about. I've got all the plants staged, and hopefully I'll have some more nice weather so I'll actually be able to get all of the shrubs and trees planted. I can't believe that once we started this project, it was like pulling off a band-aid, and now it's all getting done super efficiently and in the right order. And that's really my goal with showing you breaking ground on a brand new property, to show you exactly step by step how to do it in the most efficient way, so that if you decide to develop a new part of your garden, you'll know exactly how to do it in the easiest way so that you aren't working too hard, you're working smart. Well, be sure to subscribe to the Breathe the Plant Lady YouTube channel for more progress updates as I continue to get this native planting accomplished here at the Carolina Garden House. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please give me a like and share it with your friends. And as always, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I look forward to sharing more updates coming up as I make more progress.